Hey everyone, welcome back to Mana Mindset. And today I'm so excited. We get to do another story hour with Nikki Adarna, and she is my friend, my client, my student. And we are going to be talking about two of her past lives that she was able to regress to. I think in a 2 or 2.5 hour session. I can't remember, but it was April 7th, 2021. So you just reminded me that we are 1 year now out from that time, and you're able to actually reflect more in this last year. And by the way, Nikki is getting ready to take my certification course for past life regression work. It is a capstone course for Holomua Healing University, and she will be able to facilitate these. So if you're watching this video after May 2022, please reach out to her. I'll put her information below. And then you'll be able to facilitate for them. Now, I must say, we only do these in person. So if they're in Hawaii, or you might be flying and visiting certain cities, then you can connect with them and you can help them facilitate and help them get answers. So speaking about getting answers, and thank you for being here today. I'm so excited. So excited. So what answers were you seeking that made you go, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm on Oahu, Britt's in California in the San Francisco Bay Area. I want to fly there and get some answers. So what were you seeking at that time a year ago?
So the pandemic literally pushed me into making my energy healing bit as a business instead of just a side hobby, or just did it for friends and family.
Right.
But at the time, you were coaching me a lot on why I was feeling like I was like having an imposter syndrome, like not knowing my identity. And even during the pandemic, I dedicated months and months of learning my genealogy, my mo'oku auhau, and really trying to figure out why I felt so connected to the island, or if I had Hawaiian blood, because even my parents they're very disconnected with their parents and grandparents. So a lot of there's like missing information. And I really had to reach out to the kupunas that I did have left and kind of see how we even got to Hawaii, because I'm like the third or fourth generation from my great grandparents. They arrived during like plantation days and stuff, but I found out my great grandfather on my father's side was Hanai by a Hawaiian family, and that's how come the Hawaiian culture was like already rooted and embedded in my morals and teachings, and that's how come it drove me to do hula and paddling. So it was just like not knowing where I came from and where I wanted to go with my vision of my my healing business, because I think it's super important to perpetuate the land that I come from or that I live on, and be respectful and showcase that there is so many different connections to just mana and chi or ki or whatever or prana, like, and just kind of have this like foundational view that energy is in all cultures. And that's kind of where I wanted to be. I wanted to be authentic to myself, and that's why I was seeking you for answers.
And I think this, to be totally transparent, you're not that of Hawaiian blood in this particular life, but like you're saying, you felt so connected to the Hawaiian culture. And I don't think it was just because you grew up in it, but there was something deeper that you wanted to explore, right? And then your husband, he's Hawaiian, right? And his family is Hawaiian. And so you've just been around the culture so much, but just going, okay, like I want to be respectful of it, right? And around this time, there was a lot of movement happening in social media and things like that, that you wanted to be incredibly respectful, but also, like you said, stay true to something a truth that you feel in your na'au about what feels right for you, right? And if you really block out all the noise and the judgment in society, and you just focus back on you, you're like, but this feels right. And I need to understand why I feel so connected to the Hawaiian culture, even though I'm technically not Hawaiian blood. And I think anyone watching this who has wondered why they feel so connected to Hawaii or probably know more about the culture than some Hawaiians do, this might answer, like this video today might answer a lot of questions as to possibly why they themselves feel so connected, right? And so I'm excited to dive into that today. But I know that there's another life that came second that we want to get out of the way because it's very important life, but it's a short life. And so we're going to jump into that one first, just so you guys know this one came second, but I'm going to read it back first and then go into the Native Hawaiian life. That's a little preview. So I'm excited. Here we go. Story hour. And by the way, here's all the notes. Lots of notes. All handwritten, and I do have a recording of this as well, but I'm going to read to you Nikki's second life. All right, so you saw a brown door and then you relaxed into that next life. And then you said, I see a fish. I'm in the ocean. I think I'm a shark, a tiger shark. I'm big. I'm just swimming. Nothing seems to be around me. I actually still think I'm in Hawaii. I see canoes. The land looks dry, kind of like the west side or Nanakuli. But I don't think I'm by Oahu. It just feels like that. It actually feels like Hawaii. I'm just swimming in my spot. I'm protecting it. I ask you, how do you feel? I feel like a boss, like I'm in charge. I'm just swimming. I'm free. I have these fish following me. They're kind of annoying. I think they are there for my protection. I feel nauseous. I think I ate something. I ate metal, something I wasn't supposed to eat. And then you said that you were starting to get images of a boat, so that your spirit guides were telling you it was a boat that you ate. I think I ate a chunk of it and I really wasn't supposed, or they weren't supposed to be there. They weren't supposed to be in your area. This boat comes often, however, in my area, and it makes me really mad. I think they come to see me. I see people pointing at me. I think they want to kill me. I think I'm like a prize for them. They feed me chum. But then I get angry because they still hang around. So I ate their boat. So they get the message. And then they left. But they keep coming back. So I don't know what to do. I think they're Asian. Chinese, you said. I think they think I'm eating their food. So they see me as competition because I eat the fish. But they're my fish. That's what you said. All I can keep doing is just like shooing them away. So you're trying your best to shoo them away, but they keep coming back. I think they speared me. I feel pain all over my back, like multiple spears. I think they got me. I keep trying to swim away, but it doesn't work. I'm slowly getting weaker. And then you've seen yourself transition out of the shark life. Your lessons, when I asked you, what are your life lessons? What do you have to, why did you see this today? What lessons you need to get out of this past life? You said, hold on to my boss spirit. Be confident. Know when to leave. Know when to leave. Trust my intuition. Don't think I'm too big to die. And don't think I'm too big to fail. Pick and choose my battles, because I'm not always going to win them. The ocean is my friend, and that is where I feel the most free. Another lesson is don't fear sharks. And then you said, I can actually do my healing work in the ocean. The ocean is my home. Yeah. How do you feel hearing that back a year later, and like anything transpired since then, since these lessons came up for you?
I feel like I'm still learning those lessons, or actually like putting it into practice, because confidence is definitely like a muscle you have to build, right? Because you're always going to be tested with these things. And in my past, when I reflect on like my more like teenage years, I definitely did not know when to leave or like call it especially when it comes to like relationships or just in general. Like I'm just a giver, so I'm just like, okay, I'll give you another chance then, you know, instead of being confident in my self-worth and like being that boss, like, no, that's my stuff, like leave me alone. Like but I think
what about like picking your battles?
Oh,
You think this past year you've been better at like, no, I don't want to get into that. Like that's not my thing. And while I have stuff I could say, I'm just gonna leave that alone.
yes, 100%. I think that was the biggest one after I heard that life lesson, where I put that immediately into practice and like waited for a better opportunity to voice myself other than just being aggressive and being like, no, we're gonna fight about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the shark life totally resonated with me because, like I said, I grew up paddling. And I actually put into like as well ocean healing. I did like kapukai with Reiki, and that was just like one of my angel downloads where like, yeah, we can actually start incorporating the ocean, like bring people to the water, teach them how to cleanse their bad energy off of them, and like have that tool for them that they can do it outside of the energy work that we're already providing right now. But that life was definitely as short as it was.
Yeah.
It was the most heaviest one for me, other than the other life. Like there are different lessons and equally heavy.
Yeah. How did it feel when you were getting speared in your back? So if you can explain to somebody who hasn't ever been in the chair and experienced this kind of past life regression session, what did that feel like for you in your body?
So weird enough, I grew up after I stopped paddling and playing volleyball. I wasn't really exercising. I used to get really bad back spasms, like me not working out and stuff, or working out my muscles and being active, I guess triggered me to have like back spasms. And it was kind of like that, where I just felt like I could feel like multiple spears, just like as if somebody were to like was pushing you. It's like something was pushing inside of you, and I could feel it coming in like different directions, where I was just like, yeah, ooh, something went in my back. And then like when you're talking about the transition part, I could still feel that when I'm thinking about it and like replaying it. It was just like this, as like your battery was dying, and it was just like a slow fade, where I wasn't necessarily feeling like the pain of being scared, but it was like my soul kind of knew it was just like, let's go to sleep kind of thing. Like when you're getting really tired and you're fighting it and that was me swimming away. Like I was really fighting it hard. And then my body was just like, no, it's Paul, it's okay, we're done. And I shared this with you after we got out of the regression, was that a week or two before I was watching Seaspiracy on Netflix. And I told you that I couldn't, for whatever reason, didn't finish the documentary, because once I got to the shark part of killing sharks, because they were eating the tuna, and these people thought that they were competition for like overfishing for tuna. I started getting nauseous watching that documentary, and I didn't know why. I just like couldn't stomach it, and I just had to like stop watching it. And then when I saw that life, I was like, oh shucks, this makes sense. Like I already have this in my soul, where we're like, ew, we're so disgusted with this idea. And it was just full circle for that one.
I think if anyone sees that documentary and has the same reaction, just feeling nauseous and can't finish it, I do think they were something in a past life in the ocean, for sure. It's a hard documentary to watch, but I could watch the whole thing. I can't imagine like, okay, I throw up now and I'm not gonna watch the rest. It's like triggering. Hearing. Yeah. Good. And I just realized both of these lives are in Hawaii. I don't know why I didn't remember the shark one.
That shark one though, I think I was just describing it because that's what it felt familiar, but I really don't think that one was like Hawaii specifically. I think it was just more of a island type of habitat. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's interesting that you were very clear that they were Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I could see them. That was the cool thing about it. And I don't know if it's just because I'm more clairvoyant, right?
Yeah.
See, where it was like I was watching a movie, and in the shark's body of just like, oh, I'm making out their face. I know that they're kind of like Oriental looking, like Asian. Not too sure if it's Chinese, but I mean, that's just what it looked like. Like it just felt like a more Pacific Island base, but they were definitely Asian descent. And they just kept pointing at me like they're like talking, and of course I couldn't understand what they're saying. I just could see like let's get that one. So I just felt like, get me, no, I'm gonna get you.
I mean, you were up for the challenge, and so that's kind of the lesson, right? You got to pick your battles, because they were pretty persistent. They just kept coming back, so they were gonna just keep coming back until they got whatever it is that they wanted. And you were like, no, this is my place, my fish, my area. So it's kind of a battle there. Yeah. Speaking of battles, that's a great transition. By the way, I've been doing great transitions today. I just taught a 2-hour class, and like everything I wanted to teach had like this great transition. Battles. Speaking of battles, all right, brace yourself, everyone. And I just want to say that I've had hundreds of people in my chair for sessions, and I've seen people regress to hundreds of lives, right? Like, because one session can be anywhere from like 1 to 5 lives. I mean, 5's a lot, so like usually 1 to 3, but I've had more, and I've had people cry. It's actually very common for people to tear up or get very emotional. I'd say 90% easily of the people that are in the chair at some point tear up or cry. Well, you had a huge cry. You had a huge release. So let me just back up here, and I'm gonna read this in a bit. I have to ground myself really good to hold space for you, and I think that's important when anyone facilitates the session. So when I teach this kind of course to facilitate past life regressions, I mean, it's very important to be able to be grounded and hold space while the person is releasing all this energy. And you dropped in right there into a pretty traumatic scene. Was the first scene, and I think it was like 8:30 or something, or 9 in my office, you guys. And it was just, Nikki was screaming in my chair, and I was like, oh my God, they're gonna call the cops. Like the landlord is gonna call the cops, or my next door neighbor in my office building is gonna think that I'm doing something to somebody, because it was just like wailing, that kind of cry. It was like a wailing cry, where you just, I mean, imagine a Hawaiian woman wailing, and like you just can't do anything. It's just the pain that you can't soothe. That. So when I read this, I want people to put themselves into that mindset, is that when Nikki is saying these things to me, she is like wailing, and like you can't soothe her. So I was trying to keep her enough in the moment to get the information from the scene, but also not leave her in there too long where, her chest is going to start to hurt and she's going to be out of breath. But it was important for her to feel some of that pain, and to connect with that scene. Okay. So let's read. All right, here we go. So you dropped into that life, and then you said, outdoors, I'm by myself. It's daytime. I think I'm by a pond. I see a lily pad and a frog. It's raining. I feel alone. I don't know where my family is. I think I'm by a river. It's not a pond. I'm in a valley. I'm in the Iao Valley. And then you said and then this is where you just, actually even before you said Iao Valley, you're already like, it was already starting, your voice was starting to shift. Everyone's gone. I think they died. And you were just wailing at this point, just crying. They were killed. I see a dead body with a spear in his chest. I'm not a warrior. I don't fight. It feels like it's been a couple of days and these bodies are just here. These people who are dead, they're part of my village. I think I know the man that I'm seeing. He feels like a brother, someone part of my family. I feel like a girl. I'm 12 to 16 years old. Keep in mind, she's crying through this whole thing. I'm just a young girl. I don't have anybody anymore. My mom and dad, I had them before. I don't know what happened to my parents. I think this was my blood brother. He was my best friend. He took care of me. I asked what the name of your brother was. You said Kahiao. I wanted to make sure he was safe. I wasn't supposed to be here. I wasn't supposed to go to the valley, but I wanted to make sure he was safe. I wanted to make sure he was okay. But he had to go. He had no choice. And it was an attack. And I said, by who? And you said Kamehameha and his people. My brother was just a teenager. He was just a young boy. He was all that I had. My parents sent us off. We had to learn something. Do you remember where your parents were? Like, were they on that same island?
I think so, but
But
what I was feeling was just like they knew that they had to like let us go to go learn from the kupunas and stuff, or like do our crafts kind of thing. I really don't know where they went. I don't know if they passed away or we were sent far away. I have no idea. They just weren't there.
Yeah. And maybe they had someone else hanai the two of you, adopt the two of you, so you could learn your crafts. You said I was put in a position that I had to learn something. We both had a mission. We both had to learn something, but we weren't prepared enough. We weren't ready for this. The kupunas were supposed to get us ready for this, and you're like upset, like you're crying, you're mad. This was not supposed to happen. I think my brother had no choice, but he wasn't prepared. He thought he was prepared. He wasn't prepared. And then you just started crying some more. And you said, we used to play. He would tell me how much he wanted to be the ruler and that he'd always protect me. I asked you what you were wearing because I was literally trying to distract you from the scene because you were very emotional. So I said, what are you wearing? And you said a tapa cloth. I have a little bag. It's like a woven satchel. I think I was a medic. And then you started crying more when you said, I was supposed to be there to make sure he was okay. I was a medic. I was supposed to heal his wounds with my la'au lapa'au, but I didn't trust myself. He told me that he would protect me. I don't feel prepared. My uncle was teaching me. He's very tall. He has pepper, white and gray hair with a beard. I see a white malo. He's slender. I see myself trying to learn. I see myself smashing things together with pohaku, which is rock. I can't focus. I'm too worried about him because I don't know where he is. And I'm a girl, so I can't go where he is. He's learning to train. I think he's trying to be a warrior. But we meet in the night just so he knows that I'm safe and I know that he's safe. He finds me to check in with me. I feel like we're twins. And then you actually identified in that soul of your brother felt very familiar. Can you explain who it is in this life for you?
Yeah, that's actually my oldest sister's husband's Hanai brother. He's actually adopted. And I grew up with him since I was like 5 years old. So I just consider him my brother in this lifetime, because he's all I know. And it's funny because all of the characteristics that I described my brother in that life, he is the same way in this life, where he's like super overprotective, very kolohe, very like gets himself into trouble, thinks that he can do whatever he wants, like same thing, same personality. And when we were little, we would always stay up late at night talking stories. So like all of those things of like meeting in the night just felt so like familiar. Like it was like natural. Like we would just talk and talk and talk. I really do feel that twin essence with him in this lifetime. And it's funny because we're born in October, just 9 days apart. So I'm on the 8th, he's on the 17th, and we're the same year. And so it's just like it's incredible how universe just puts us back into place in order to like balance out the karma, or just, you know, have a second chance.
Yeah. Wow. So I want people watching this to realize that they can recognize, and it's an energy, right? It's an energy that you're like, I know that soul. That soul is with me in 2021 because you did this last year. You know, the soul is with me now. So that's amazing. You said you were the older twin. You wanted to make that clear. You said a spear went through his chest. It was a big battle in Iyao. Our village is is by the ocean now, lower in the Ahupua'a. So you fast forwarded and you said our village is no longer near Iyao Valley. It's lower down by the ocean. Okay. You said that you moved because you couldn't be near where he died. It was too much memories for you, too much pain. Then we fast forwarded the scene. You said I'm in my 40s now. So you went from 12 to 16, so you fast forwarded to 40. I have a little boy. I love him so much. I named him after my brother. He's so gentle. I needed him. I feel safe with him. He makes me happy. Kahekili was our chief. You reflected back to what happened in Iyao Valley when you were younger. And you said Kahekili was our chief. He left us to go to Oahu. That's when Kamehameha came. Kahekili thought it was the best thing at the time, but Kamehameha was waiting for his opportunity, and he took it. I was numb when my brother died. I didn't know how to cope with it. I just listened to what people told me to do. I just worked. They told me, just work and move on. They told me that my brother did an honorable thing and that he did what he said he always wanted to do, which was to protect me. I want to believe them, but I can't let go. He's not here to grow old with me and have a family of his own. I only see him in my dreams. That's the only way I know how to talk to him. And that's when he talks to me. My son, he's patient, he's loving, he's gentle. I have a husband, but I don't love him. This is common, by the way, okay? In many past lives, people did not marry for love. They married for other reasons. So he said, I have a husband, but I didn't love him. He has many wives. I'm just one of them. And it's okay. Because all I need is my son. I try not to cry in front of my son. I don't want him to see me as weak. I have a fear that my son will die like my brother did. Right now, there's no war, but I feel like something is coming. I think I am psychic. I knew missionaries were coming next. I did not want to see my baby die. I want to die before my kid. That's how it should be. The kid should live a long life after their parent. So we fast forwarded and you said, my son is a young man now. He's fully clothed. So this gets interesting. This gets very interesting because we start to bring in details. And what time period did it feel like? You like mid 18?
Mid to late. Like by the time that we're at this point, it was like late 1800s.
Okay.
Already kind of like transitioning into settlers.
Political stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So like a little bit mid to the later part of the 1800s. And then you said, my son's a young man, fully clothed. I think the missionaries have come. There's no war yet. I said, what's your name? You said Pua for short. And then I asked you your last name and you actually said Aukena, Aukena. And just by the way, we don't know how accurate all this is, but this is what has come through in hypnosis. And I'm just here to observe and, write it down and report. You said, I feel like I lost my gifts. We aren't allowed, this one stuck with me. We aren't, and Hawaiians who are listening, like really listen. We aren't allowed to be gifted is what you said to me. We aren't allowed to be gifted. I feel like I've lost my gifts. And this was your gifts of healing, okay? So many rules. You yelled this in my office. So many rules. I'm tired of it. I feel angry. White people rules. They're making me speak English. I feel like my son is turning into one of them. He has no choice. We have to obey these rules or else we'll be punished. This lady wanted to speak to me in Olelo, Hawaii, and then they whipped her with their gun in her mouth. I feel like a prisoner in my own village. I can't even call it a village anymore. We've evolved. Even the way you said it was like, ugh. We've evolved. I see little houses. We were very careful, and so we would speak Hawaiian in secret. They tell me that my gods don't exist, the white man. I'm afraid they'll kill me. The guards come and go. So I guess the guards were like patrolling the area from time to time. When they leave, then I can do my healing work. But it's not the same. When I do my healing work, it's not the same because I'm in fear. I don't see my brother in my dreams anymore. Oh, when you said that, I had so much chills when you said that in the session. I'm in my 60s, I think. I just know I'm tired. I have to dress in these stupid clothes. I have to put up my hair like them. If I don't dress appropriately, they'll rape us. They say it's a sign if we're naked that we want to be raped. Some ladies in my village like to be topless though. So to protect us, we wear their stupid clothes. When I'm outside, I just don't speak. It's not even worth it. I feel so drained. I feel so tired. I'm so angry because of them. I think they are trying to recruit my son. I tell them that they're brainwashing. I tell them, or I think you meant him, they are brainwashing him to be like them. My son's heart is so pure, and he just believes. They tell him this is how he'll protect me, and then he believes them. So I guess they really did start to brainwash what they felt was best for your son. I know these stupid bastards, literally what you said. I know these stupid bastards have something bigger, and they're brainwashing him. I'm afraid he'll turn on his people. That boy, he's too gullible sometimes. And then we moved ahead a little bit, and you said, I see a gun pointed at me now. I'm on the floor. I'm kneeling. I think they caught me trying to heal my people. My people are getting sick. These white men brought that sickness here. And now they want me to stop doing my healing. They think I'm some kind of witch or something, like I'm evil, but they're the evil ones. I'm not afraid of dying. I want them to shoot me. I'm speaking Olelo, Hawaii. The man is pointing the gun at me and he's scared now. He doesn't understand and he thinks I'm hexing him. He shot me in my face because he was so scared and he wanted me to shut up. I die there. There's blood everywhere. The white guy has instant regret and he tells people that he just wanted me to shut up. They left me there to die alone and I'm bleeding out. I die on the floor, the wooden floor of my house. My poor baby has to find me there. He was trying to come over and tell me good news. He was trying to tell me that white people were going to take him somewhere on a ship to England. He's always wanted to travel and get off the island. They told him that he could go to England for education. My son is just holding me now, screaming for help, not knowing what to do. I feel at peace now that I'm dead. So I guess you had transitioned out of the body. And then I asked you, after you transitioned, you felt, lift a lightness and lifting out. I said, I want you to see how his life plays out. And I'm glad I kept you there and allowed you to just kind of see what happens for his life. You said he's scared. He's scared just like me. He's scared to find a loved one dead. The same way you found your brother, he found his mom dead. I think after, years after he has a wife, my son also has a little girl. I don't think he stayed on the island. I think they go to England. He couldn't return home for the same reasons as me. It hurt too much to be home because that's where I died. He does something with books. He's really smart and it makes me really happy. My son's father was never around. Before white man, we were allowed to love freely. That was an interesting fact that we picked up here. And then you did say about your husband, at least he was a handsome man. That's what you said. The lessons, when I asked you what are your lessons that you need to take with you from this past life and like understand, you said don't let anyone convince you that your healing gifts don't work. Your other lesson was you are meant to heal, you are meant to touch and to make people feel better. You also said all white man's medicine does is make you more sick. They just want to control you. They think they're God, but they're nothing. You also said you can't save them all, but you can try. It's another lesson for you. And don't be afraid to be who you are. Okay. And then when you started talking about white man's medicine, you did say they don't know what they're doing. It's chemicals, and chemicals doesn't heal the body. Okay. You also said we need to grow more la'au so it can outgrow us all. So it can be around for a long time. We need to put more value into plant medicine. Our people, they were happy before the white man came. They were healthy. Yes, people would get sick, but we could help them heal. You also said, let's see here. There's other messages that were very specific for you. So now I'm looking at what, okay. Healers, when you were talking about our heal team and us as healers, you said healers have to stray away from the Western mentality. They can't go and live this autopilot life of the American dream that they sold us. We have to keep empowering people to have their own healing business so they don't answer to anyone else and they can just live out their purpose in their way. You said the ones that continue to work for corporate America will continue to be a bit clouded in their judgment. Yeah. You talked about Native Hawaiians and how heavy the heart is. Yeah. And that we need to do more cleansing for Native Hawaiians on the heart and on the root chakra for sure. You said Native Hawaiians, it's more than just money that they suffer from, that relationship with money and then the root chakra and the land. They hate white men. There's so much anger in them still. Okay. We need to help release a lot of that anger. You actually said my Perpetuate Hawaiian Culture needs to be a nonprofit because up until this point, it's been a passion project of mine, but you like specifically was like, that needs to be a nonprofit. So I got that done in the last year. You said, with Hawaiians, it feels like they've lost a bit of their identity. They need to get to know themselves more. And it's not always about blood quantum. It's about the heart. It's about the morals. It's about the values. It's about understanding where we come from. It's a losing battle for Hawaiians to be fighting with Hawaiians. There needs to be a mindset shift. And we very much bought into and believed the narrative of the white man. So it's very confusing for Hawaiians right now because, I mean, they look at what we do with Reiki right now, and a lot of them think we're the witch. But that's a colonized thought that was placed. And it was, when you understand Reiki is just channeling love, and love is aloha, and you cannot have mana without aloha, and you cannot have life force energy without understanding aloha. And that's all we're doing, is using our hands to heal, which our ancestors have used their hands for centuries to heal. That's all Reiki is. And I want to point this out, that like my teacher, I've had many mentors, but Jerry Kalavaya is from Maui, and she, you know, did a lot of hands-on healing. But when I started to really learn, she had passed away. And so another mentor who came into my life was Japanese, and she's still my mentor till this day. And she taught me Reiki. And so during a time in the 1800s when Hawaiians had to hide their gifts or else they'll die, essentially, Reiki was on the rise, right? Like it was being spread more from Japan. So on the one hand, yes, I'm Hawaiian and I would love to have had a mentor to just like take me under their wing, but that hasn't been my story, you know? And so it's like, well, our, you know, like I said, it was dying off and we had to hide. Reiki was being spread. So that's why a lot of right now we see Reiki being a big thing, because it wasn't suppressed in the mid 1800s. It was growing, and in the 1900s too. Okay. So it's very interesting that you're talking about how Hawaiians need a mindset shift. We need to unite. We're more powerful together. But Hawaiians, they don't know who to turn to, and they don't know who to trust. And you just talk about, one thing was we just can't fight each other. There just needs to be more love, more understanding. You want to share anything else that came through for that? I know it was such a heavy one. I'm looking a little bit over some last minute notes at the very end, but I'm let you share right now as you're hearing all of that. By the way, she was crying for much of that first part, wailing.
A lot of it actually,
Mm-hmm.
but majority of it was because of the whole losing my brother thing. And that was a lot of details that I was talking to you about my brother, because that was, I guess, the biggest thing in that lifetime. But the one thing that stuck out to me was like from wailing, like crying, I was so angry, like furious, like even when you were telling me to describe my clothes, it was pure disgust. Like I've never felt like you were reading it pretty like lightly.
Yeah, I know you were like mad, like that whole scene. And I could, the way you were describing it, I mean, I could see you just totally like just cussing, if you could cuss, at him, and just like screaming at him and just being like, I'm not afraid of you. Like pull the fucking trigger. I don't give a shit. Like, I'm ready to die anyway. I've lost my essence of who I am anyway. Like, you know, I can't do anything. I can't do my healing. I can't speak. Like we can't even dress like how we want to dress. You're all here patrolling us how we live. Like we're basically prisoners in our own fucking home. And that's basically what they did to the queen. Mm-hmm. What they did to the queen. She's a prisoner in her own home. You know, and I think Hawaiians a lot of times still feel that way right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like in this lifetime, because I told you, like we do a small intake if anybody's curious on how it actually works. You do a small intake and you talk about your pet peeves and kind of like things that are just like out of the ordinary for you. And I always told you, well, what I told you was like, I have that same anger. Like growing up, I was just as angry as all the other Native Hawaiians about whatever it is that was going on. But at the time, it was more so about Mauna Kea.
Oh yeah. That time.
Yeah, I told you my pet peeves was like ignorance and like entitlement and like and like trying to like be controlling, and to see all of that, like it totally spoke volumes to me on why I was so angry. Is because my soul holds that anger, and I think a lot of Kanaka don't realize that. Like, imagine in this lifetime with your koko, your blood of being Native Hawaiian, it's more so also your generation, your lineage that has anger too. That's where we're born. If your mom's Hawaiian, right? You're in her womb, you're in her essence, you're going to carry out that anger too. And that's essentially even how we are raised, right? Your parents, if they're angry about what's going on, and their parents were angry about what's going on.
That's all you hear all the time.
You're just, it's no one's fault. We're not born into this world angry, but we're also taught to upkeep that. Like, that's, anger has been like living on the islands. It just seems like that's the fuel that gets us to speak out. When I was, and that was kind of one of the life lessons that I do remember. You asked me, well, so what is the lesson out of it? Why are you not Native Hawaiian in this lifetime? And I remember telling you it was because I needed a different perspective. I needed to be, in a sense, a white person in this lifetime, seeing the cause and effect of what has transpired, to be more level-headed in the healing of understanding, like, yes, we have every right to be upset, but there's also a way that we can go, that if we choose to heal from it and still have our voices as powerful as an angry person. We don't have to be the loudest one in the room to get our point across. But yeah, it was kind of like a very big roller coaster in that lifetime, because I went from being super depressed to like super angry. And it was just like, it was tunnel vision with my son. And it was like that protective instinct of like brainwashing. And, you know, I get it that then, and I think that's why else I said, like, don't be so caught up on the American dream. It's not that we're being brainwashed. It's just,
we are, but
but like in
I'll say it.
Yeah, but it's in a sense of like, we have to find our own dreams in this too, you know. Don't be just sold on like the shiny things. And that's what I felt like my son was, is like, that's what I meant by like, he's super gullible. I get it. My poor baby, like, he wants, they're selling him education, they're selling him travel, they're selling him like, no, this is the way that you're going to protect your mom, you're going to come like military, like we're going to show you all of those things. And he was the one that I could felt like, even though we don't see like full on conversations, you kind of just get downloaded with these mini memories of just like, I can remember him being like trying to calm me down, like, no, mom, we're good, kind of thing. Like, these are good people. And he was really trying to convince me, like, this is the right thing to do. And it's kind of like society now, where you do have Kanaka that are like, no, America's doing a good thing for us. And then you have Kanaka that are like, what the heck are you talking about? Are you not looking at what's going on? Yeah. And I guess that's the miscommunication and like that disharmony of like, what is it? Who do we trust? What do we trust? How can we trust it? And
it's really hard because we don't have a leader. Like Hawaiians don't have a queen or a king right now that everyone would be like agreeing that like that's the leader. And so it's been rough, I think, to make any moves in one direction or another. And I think unfortunately, the one thing this hit me that Hawaiians agree on is they're angry. And that's not something that we need to continue to perpetuate, because the soul does not do well with anger. The true essence of our soul is love. Anger is the furthest feeling from that, is the furthest energy. It lowers our vibration. And based on the law of attraction and where our consciousness is what we create, if we continue to focus on the anger and the pain, we will just keep manifesting more anger and pain for our community. And I think that's what you're trying to say, is that the only way to transmute this energy is to lean into love, and for each other, love of the land and love of the people. Mm-hmm. And love of the people doesn't mean we have to hate anyone. We just have to love the people.
Right.
You know, and that's where people want to put division, like, no, we're going to love Hawaiians and hate white people. But I hope this can show people that even white people could have been Hawaiian in a past life and feel very called to helping Hawaiians in this life.
Yeah. And I think too, and maybe that's why I had the shark life afterwards, is like also it ties into picking and choosing our battles, and like my views now on like, for me, it's everybody should be able to pick and choose their battles in the sense of like, especially Kanaka, because like you said, my husband is Kanaka, and not only does he have Hawaiian blood, he has royalty blood. So when I have keiki, it's my kuleana and his responsibility to teach our kids where they come from and the importance and how everything in their history has come down. But we pick and choose the moments when we allow non-Kanaka to be able to teach the culture, which makes no sense. Like for me, my kids, for 18 years, I'm going to be their advocate with my husband, and I get some things we need to be gatekeepers, right? Because it's sacred to a family's line. But at the same time, my hopes and my dreams is for it to be a safe space for non-Kanaka that have similar values and want to learn the proper way to be able to. Because I also grew up being bullied because people were confused if whether I was Hawaiian or not Hawaiian. And I lost so many Native friends because the moment that they felt stupid when I was like, oh, I don't think I'm Hawaiian, but I'm doing the things, they're like, then they treated me differently just because of my blood. And that's why like blood quantum can't be a thing. If we want the
colonized thing, the colonizer came up with that.
Yeah.
Hawaiians didn't go, well, how much percentage do you have? No. Are you Hawaiian? Yes. That's it. That's all that mattered.
Yeah.
So that is also a colonizer thing. And this is the confusing part for so many Hawaiians, is because we're still operating out of a way that they brainwashed us to operate from. That they're so brainwashed that they're calling people like us who do healing work with our hands, which our ancestors did healing work with their hands, that we're crazy, that we're woo-woo, witchy, whatever they want to say. And it's like, no, I've had healers in my bloodline. I've been a healer in many past lives. I'm back again to do the damn thing, right? Because we need it. Like we need more love in this world. And I just really hope that through, honestly, I know I need to go home soon. It's been really rough being away because of COVID and hard to fly with with Reef. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to fly with him. He doesn't understand. He can't wear a mask. He's, 5 and autistic. And it's really, the sensory of being on an airplane with that many people on a commercial flight is overwhelming. And so I know I need to get home soon. I will get home this year to just get in the ocean. And I don't think Hawaiians should be that far away from home ever. I mean, like, it's almost going to be 3 years that I haven't put feet on the ground. But I can't wait to get back home and get to work with these healing sessions and providing a safe space for Hawaiians to dream up a world that they want. Because all we've been focusing on is what we see every day, and it's not pretty. Mm-hmm. Hawaiians can't afford to live on their homeland. They can't even afford to pay property tax, and that's how they're losing their home. I don't think Hawaiians should have to pay property tax, period. Mm-hmm. Like, somebody pass that law and hurry up with it, please. I mean, Hawaiians shouldn't be losing their homes.
Yeah.
But I can't wait to help them just cleanse and like really find and dream up a new way that they want to be. Because this anger stuff and this blaming and this being mad at each other, and then who's more Hawaiian and you're not doing enough, but and over here, this and that, and you don't live here and we live here. I mean, all this shit is all divisive, and the colonizers are like, keep it up.
You're like doing our jobs basically for us. Yeah, you're making it easier.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's why like the whole unity thing, that message was like speaking loud to me, is that even I have to get out of my own way too and stop letting what happened in my past stop me from, perpetuating what my heart says is right to do, especially giving back to the community, because it doesn't matter. Like, you honor where you're at in Alameda, and that's
totally.
And that's something everyone should do. And even like when I went to New Zealand, those people that are not native to Aotearoa, they respectfully know how to take care of the land because it's taught to them. And I wish, like in a perfect world, I want to get to a place of where Hawaii is doing that, where we're teaching non-Hawaiians how to respectfully carry themselves on the island instead of feeling entitled just because they're residents, right? Kamaina, that they have, and say so. No, I do believe that there is a fine line where it needs to be earned, and that's just doing their due diligence of just being respectful and learning where they're sitting right now, where they're residing. I think that's super important, but it doesn't help when the approach is so aggressive with anger and saying like, and kind of telling somebody, no, you're holy, you better be respectful. No, you got to educate to that point so that they can understand, okay, I do have to be respectful if I'm going to choose to be on a sacred land, a sacred place. I don't think we're going to get there if we just choose to be angry automatically and categorize all howlies or foreigners.
I mean, it hasn't worked. How long have we been doing it? It hasn't worked, clients. It hasn't worked. Being angry has not worked. We've been trying, right? And we got to try something different. And so I really, really hope that through whatever we can offer as a team, whatever we can offer, it feeling peaceful and connected. I really can't wait to do some mana healing sessions. I really want to offer some free ones on Zoom before I can get back home and do one in person. But I just know, I just know that we cannot continue leading with anger because it totally drops our vibration. And I really want to point out that you said in your healing work that it wasn't the same after you had fear instilled in you. And when you had fear, your vibration was so low that you couldn't even connect with your brother in your dreams. And so a lot of times when people's loved ones pass away, they get mad because of what happened. And then they get more mad because, maybe their husband or something starts visiting the kids in the family. And how come uncle and auntie and this, cousin over here can see my husband, but I can't see my husband? I have the answer. You can't see your husband because you're mad. You're angry and your vibration has lowered. So he cannot come to see you in your dreams until you come to a vibration of gratitude and love. And people around you are not feeling that heavy energy. He can access them and show up in their dreams. Right? So anyone who's listening to this, if you have a loved one on the other side that has transitioned and you haven't been able to connect with them in the way maybe you have previously or others in your family have, you have to raise your vibration. And it only can be done through love and gratitude. That's it. And I remember that you said your healing work was not the same because of the fear you felt in your body.
Yeah, I felt so limited because it was just like eggshells. Like any given moment, I felt like this panic of even smashing herbs together. I felt this panic of like being questioned, or I think that's why that scene of seeing my friend getting whipped by the like a rifle, the end of it, it just was like, that was the trauma of it, that it wasn't even to like the point of like, oh yeah, we're just not going to speak that way. It was, no, we're not going to speak that way. And I'm going to make sure you're in line that we're not going to speak that way. And I think that's why at that point, when I was telling you, like, I'm just ready to die at this point, was because I gave up. Like, I just felt like there's nothing more I could do or even feel like I could win in that situation, because I felt like my son was gone already. He already thought these people were so great. I didn't have my brother. I didn't even really have like a husband that I loved. So there was no like love to stay. And I couldn't even do the things like I was meant to do. Like from a young age, having to train to be, to work with La'alapa'au, to now telling me I can't even do the one thing that I was told I had to do. Like, how, what more could I lose at that point? And I think the saddest part is dying angry.
Yeah.
Because when you transitioned into like letting me see my son's life after I left, the moment that I had regret, because I left on selfish terms. I totally left on selfish terms.
Ooh, pick your battles from your shark lesson.
Yeah. So I think that's probably why it was the secondary to this,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So because I ended up in that moment, and I think that's for everybody. In that moment, we don't realize I just continued the cycle of my own hurt because I decided to choose selfishly.
Yeah.
Had I been a little bit more level-headed and keep fighting, or just eat up the silence, or maybe I could have lived a longer life with him to understand.
Yeah, you would have.
To understand, like, give him that closure of like, but he lived on with that hurt, that same hurt.
Yeah. He, to the point where he couldn't return home.
Yeah. And I couldn't fix it. And I think that's another life lesson in this. When we leave our loved ones with unfinished business, it's going to be 1,000 times harder to fix what you're seeing, kind of thing, if we stick around, instead of just choosing to live more intentfully of just like, we're going to make this right. And maybe love a little bit harder, or ask yourself when we do argue, like, is this the last conversation I want to leave off with this person? And I think we take life for granted. And I think that's why I was saying, like, live more in gratitude, live more in, like, so.
And it also shows his generation just how easy it was for the Westerners to convince that generation, because they didn't know what it was like previously. So they didn't know what it was like pre-missionaries. So all they knew growing up was missionaries. So that's normal to them. So like it was so frustrating for you to watch, but he really had nothing else to compare his life to. So he did just believe whatever they were saying, because he just thought that's normal. I don't know life pre-missionaries, And so I still think there is so much confusion in the Hawaiian community back home, and here too, for all of us. We all feel that. But I know that our mana is there, and I know that our love for our people and our love for our ancestors and our love for our land and our love for Akua and source energy is so strong. And I would love to see that come out more and be at the forefront of things. And I would love to see in the next year just like this huge release from the chest, just like a collective sigh of release from the Hawaiian community, and just like clearing their heart chakra. I mean, that's why so many Hawaiians have heart disease and heart attack and all the wrong, and then like diabetes and all that's like root chakra. And like there's so many connections to the health issues that our people have. But we are strong people. We're going to be here for a long time. And I just hope people watching this who have no idea about Hawaiian history are more interested to really look it up, and look it up from a Hawaiian perspective, our history, and how we were basically stripped of our essence. Our ancestors were stripped of their essence of who they are. They couldn't speak. They couldn't do the healing work. They couldn't do the martial arts, the lua. They couldn't do anything that was them because it offended or scared white people. And God forbid women are powerful. God forbid there's a queen in power. White men don't like that. So I just want people to remember that we're just here in this lifetime, you and I, to just empower people and remind them how powerful their thoughts are, how powerful their energy is. And if they can channel that in the right way, so much healing can take place. Yeah. And so while we are trained in Reiki, because that is who my mentor was that trained me, and it's because Reiki wasn't a dying thing, it was actually on the rise when Hawaiians had to hide their healing abilities, that it's the same thing though. It's we're using our hands to heal, and we're just sending love, and that's what Reiki is. And so I hope people can open up their minds a little bit after this video to understanding that don't get stuck on the word. It's the essence of it is the same, and I'm so grateful that I have mentors to allow me and you to not be afraid of our gifts, because there are so many kids coming into this world that have gifts, and their parents, if they have bought into the colonizers' way of thinking, they're going to tell their kids to shut down that gift because that's weird. And I don't want them to shut down that gift.
And I think it's amazing that Mrs. Takata was Hawaii first. Like it came through Hawaii before it went
Reiki,
to Thailand.
Reiki went from Japan to Kauai. Really, it went to where Mrs. Takata was, and she brought Reiki to Hawaii, and then it went to the West Coast, and then went to Brazil. And because in Brazil, that's the second largest population of Japanese people in the world, and so if anyone's interested watching this video, please reach out. I'm gonna leave both of our information below in the description. And if you want to reach out to Nikki after May to book a past life regression session with her and explore, and let me say that you can go to future lives. You can be a rock, a mermaid, a ET. I mean, like it's limitless in this work that we do. And we don't know all the possibilities. We're just here to observe and write down our notes, and we don't get the information. The client gets the information. So it's really fascinating. If you're interested in past life regression, Dolores Cannon, who is like our professor emeritus, because she's no longer here in the physical world, but she has so influenced, just how open we are to these messages coming through during these sessions from our spirit guides and what's being channeled. It's beautiful. So thank you, Nikki, for being on. And I can't wait for people to just learn more about Hawaiian history. And if they want to watch also Simone and Annabelle's past life regression on my YouTube channel, they can check that out as well. If you like, what you heard today, if you learned something today, if you shifted a perspective, if this touched you in some way, please click the like button. You can subscribe, you can share this with others, but I'm happy you got answers. And I guess my last question for you is, like, after this session with me a year ago, what has changed for you in your life? Whether it's confidence, or it's the way you do your healing work, whether it's you've just realized this is my purpose and I'm going for it in this life, like what's shifted?
So much. I don't think people realize how much visiting a past life can really change your life. I stepped in more into my calling. I got more aggressive with my healing, and when people ask me, I have less shame, basically, of being like,
no, you are more passive, right?
Yeah.
You're passive with your purpose, and now you're like, no, this is what I'm here to
do. And it's even got to me as far as getting attuned to be a Reiki master, so I can now teach and carry out our lineage on healers. But the biggest thing was after our past life regression, I actually visited EL. I told you that it was a long time overdue, and I ended up doing a blessing with my husband's uncle that's a kahuna here. And it was just life-changing to really tap in that moment with my guides in a more intimate setting and not be fearful of what to feel. So it really did bring me more confidence, and it made me want to empower other people that whatever you feel, just trust your gut, because there's something inside that it's not, you're not an imposter. I think you'd feel much more better when you get answers and actually understand why you're feeling those things versus always questioning it. Like seek your answers. And I think just a side message to leave off of everybody, you always tell us to be pro something instead of anti something. And the one thing that I would want to share with Native Hawaiians is, if you ever catch yourself being anti-colonizer or anti-something, or you're too worried about if they're Hawaiian or not, be proactive and learn your lineage then. Learn the things that you're hearing them do. If you don't know, seek that knowledge, because that was the best thing, was seeking my answers. So if you want to correct somebody, learn the thing first too and share. It's so good to just share our knowledge, because that's what's going to make us live way longer than when we transition out of this lifetime, is the knowledge that we leave behind and that essence. And like I said, don't make it be angry. Like, don't make anger be the last thing you leave on earth. Be passionate, be filled of love, be filled of abundance, and just know that we can change something, even with it just with one person.
Yeah. And if we keep replaying the past and being in that consciousness and energy, then all we're perpetuating is that fear and that stress and that anger. And that is not our true essence as Hawaiian people. That is not. It is aloha. Aloha is the medicine. It's that simple. And I think the more united we are on messaging, because words are actually power and it helps us to focus our thoughts. And the more we are united on simple messaging, which is why I created Perpetuate Hawaiian Culture, because who's going to argue that's a bad thing? It's not a bad thing. So it was a message, and that's the messaging is like, let's do this together. And so I hope if anyone's listening, like lead with love and stop feeling like you need to impart justice. Allow the law of karma to do that. You don't need to go and impart justice everywhere and figure out how this person is going to get punished and this person did wrong. Just leave them to the ancestors. Leave them to the law of karma. It is not your responsibility to impart that. Focus and lead with love. That is your responsibility. And heal yourself for your keiki and for your ancestors because they couldn't do it. You heal for yourself and your family. And so the next generation is better off and they are at a higher vibration. Okay. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much, Nikki, for being here. And like I said, please like, subscribe, and share. And we appreciate you. And we can't wait to have another story hour with past life regression work. But thank you, everyone. Good night.